Welcome everyone to the Ashen Forge. I am joined, of course, by Diggs and the legendary Neuro, and today we are going to talk about pay to win. How you guys doing?
Doing great. We played Fortnite last night. It was a great game.
I actually went ahead and bought that today.
Nice.
I haven't downloaded it yet. I couldn't remember my password, but anyways, it's funny I could download it, but I couldn't actually log in. But anyway, so today we are talking about pay to win, which has sort of been the big spin that Intrepid puts on Ashes of Creation, right? That's like the big bold letters from the very beginning. No pay to win. And so we kind of wanted to explore what that means, I guess, to all of us and sort of what we look for in that and why it's good, why it's bad, that sort of stuff. So I don't know if you guys have any initial thoughts. Pay to win, it's interesting how the models have changed, right? Anyone that grew up with subscription-based models. And I feel like cash shops, I mean, that's essentially what we're talking about, kind of were introduced to the old games as they were failing, losing customer base, right? That's how they were initially put in. And it's sort of now taken over as the model to go to.
Well, a combination of as they were failing on top of the trend being established by the free-to-play games that, here's cash shop things that work. So the older games were able to see what worked and kind of mimic the success for themselves.
So what were the things that the older games like EQ and WoW put in? They put in like the power-ups. You could level, I guess, XP boosts. What else?
Yeah, I mean, it went full-fledged.
They didn't really do cosmetics.
To a degree. I mean, I guess it depends on what you call cosmetics. I mean, to me, amount is amount. They all run at the same speed. Some of the very early things EverQuest did was put in different models of their mounts. That's what, more or less, I think what Warcraft does what now? Mounts and pets, right? That's the main thing.
Yeah.
So they've sort of entered in it, but they've not. EverQuest now offers all the other stuff as well. But
so I think I first ran into it with the online version of Neverwinter, a Facebook version of Neverwinter. It was each zone was kind of gated, so you got the first zone freebie, and then I think new zones cost money, kind of gated, so you got other stuff cost money, and I pretty quickly that freebie in the early days. And then I think trying to add games to their thing, like 2010 or 2008, somewhere around there. 2009 to 2010. And the game was kind of fun, but then I realized I was like spending money. I didn't want to spend money on it, so I just stopped playing. And then Wizard 101 would have subscriptions, but you could buy cards that would give you pets. You got a different pet every month. And you could buy homes and things like that, which I thought was kind of fun. It often came with your that was your subscription, so you could either pay for subscription month to month, or just buy the pet itself, and maybe that would give you coins or something to spend. But it was a nice way to $10. It was like $10. You get a pet, you get something new for it. I liked that.
Yeah. So for the context of what they're going to do with Ashes of Creation, it's going to be a subscription-based game. So it's already going to be in your pocket for a certain amount every month. And, in the modern era, for me, I've seen where that was kind of being used, before everything went free to play with SOE with their stuff, and you would get an allotment of the SOE currency. Yeah, I can't remember what they called it back then. The SC. That you would get every month, and eventually they changed it when everybody complained for some silly reason. They had it changed that you only get $500 to spend per game per month with the all access subscription instead of just getting 1,000 flat out or whatever. I don't know why people had them do that, but oh well. But I always thought that was a good way to do it. If you're going to have a game that is going to have a cash shop sort of thing, that's also got a subscription. Give people some of the cash every month for subscribing. It's a little bit more fair to do it that way, because then people aren't having to pay 2 times to access things if they only want 1 or 2 things off the cash shop here or there. Now, I think about EVE Online, and it's a subscription. It's a very successful subscription-based game. Nobody will deny the success of that game. It is still a runaway freight train of success. Their cash shop basically comes down to Plex. Plex is the stuff that you can buy and spend in-game in various different ways. You can double your training speed, access to different ships and skills and modules, or get into things faster. You can get skill extractors. I don't know what the hell those are. You can train multiple characters at once, and you can get some special skins and stuff. And you can, of course, trade it for the in-game currency, which is going to mean that people are, instead of buying money from gold farm or however you would normally buy gold, you buy this ISK, and then the Plex rather, and you go buy the ISK ISK, their currency. You trade people for it. So anything that you would buy with the regular in-game currency, you can basically buy by spending money. Now, there's, of course, values and limits to things. If you're going to buy like a mothership, a capital ship or something, what are those, like $45,000, $100,000 or something ridiculous like that for the biggest of the biggest ships in the game? So like we're talking, big real world value gets destroyed when these major battles happen and the massive capital ships get destroyed. It's pretty interesting stuff, but that's it. That's the only stuff they have. And so, yeah, there's some amount of being able to pay your way to do things faster and get things done more easily. But you're still having to risk things at the end of the day. These things can still be taken from you. And there's only so much insurance and stuff that you can really do about it. Then I think of like MMOs and stuff that don't use a subscription. Of course, it makes sense to have a very robust cash shop because you're trying to make money off of people. But for me, it's a little bit weird to have both. Like even the Plex, I understand it's kind of limited. It's got its perks to it, and if you're a really dedicated player, you might have the resources to be buying Plex off of people and still be able to cover all of your other fees. I think you can even use it to pay your monthly subscription. So people who are really like locked in, like the top 5-10% of players or whatever, probably don't have to pay to play the game or whatever at this point. But it's when I think about a full-fledged cash shop, like I think about if EverQuest Next, for example, was going to be a subscription-based game and have that giant of a cash shop, I would not have been very happy about it. To me, the idea of a subscription-based game having a robust cash shop, a lot of stuff to buy, a lot of things that you're constantly trying to like dangle the carrot and make people buy in on, that's not really cool. Because again, you're already making people pay in and pay some amount per month. And if you can't pay off the bills for the studio and make your money off of all of that and the initial client purchases, then, I feel like maybe the business model might need to be adjusted to be a little bit more inclusive to people that would otherwise not be buying in. That's kind of the issue I'm thinking about a little bit. Obviously the idea of like telling people, oh, you've got to have groups of 8 and 1 of each class, like that's kind of scary to some people. Some people don't really want to play that sort of thing. And I wonder if that's part of the reason why they're going to be trying to do the the double gads that you pay to play and you pay to be able to get other accessories. Not even if you're going to try to trade them or anything. Just the idea that you're only going to be able to mostly access these things by spending your money on them after you've already spent your money just to get in. To me, that's a little ridiculous.
I think it's a good point to move on to the point B of the initial topic. What is win? Because Ashes doesn't have pay to win. They have pay. It's just not to win. So do you have a problem in general with pay to win? You seem like you have a problem with paying with subscription, but not necessarily with the concept of pay to win itself specifically.
I have to say I disagree with the concept of win, but I'll weigh in later.
No, I'm just asking.
I didn't know if you were talking to
winning. What is winning to you?
You see, and that's the part for me that's kind of fun is, winning is defined by its own terms in an online game, a multiplayer online game that intends to be endless and limitless. What it means to win in something like WoW, for example, if you're a raider, it's that you've got all of the highest top tier raid loot, not just for yourself, but for everybody in your 40-person group, that everybody's got the best everything. And the moment they open the doors to new content, you guys are banging your heads against it, trying to be the first to get everybody looted with the next best stuff and the next best stuff. It's, it's this uphill treadmill stair step thing or whatever. I can't think of a proper analogy. It's weird. It's an odd sort of grinder, but
so for you, is it a group?
What was that?
Is it a group issue versus an individual issue?
It's that if you're a raider, then having the best stuff, that's what it means to win. If there is some way to just buy your way there, that would make things a lot easier. Fortunately, most of the stuff is, I believe, still bind on pickup, so you actually have to go there and do the thing in order to get the stuff. So you can't just buy your way in and win.
Right, but I'm saying, but it seems like you're saying your issue is not with pay to win for individuals; it's pay to win for groups, because then they take away from other people on the server versus what an individual does in terms of maybe arena PvP or something like that.
No, it's not actually an individual versus a group thing. Like it's fine for somebody to win. For a PvP person, obviously it's being the highest rank of PvP person and getting all the top tier PvP gear or whatever.
I don't think it has to be being the highest. It could just be being on par when you haven't actually played the game to earn that, right? I think individual arena people will say it's not about you being on top. It's the fact that I came in and I had to earn this gear, and you just paid your way to this gear, and now you're able to fight me without having earned that place. That's what I hear people saying.
But that's the thing, is there's no way to pay your way in. You have to earn all this stuff. You have to actually grind it and get it. The thing I was going to say is the only one that you could probably really win with money is buying things off of gold farmers, getting the resources to buy the gold to get the crafting materials to grind your crafting skill up. But even that, everybody can get their crafting skill up, so it's not really that big of a deal. Being able to make the highest value items and sell them at a high price. Again, there's
is that for Ashes that you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about for World of Warcraft still. No,
you can't buy top gear.
No, not really. I mean, you can buy some crafted items, but the crafted items aren't like as good as getting a set of the best everything from the top raids or whatever.
Although you do have
sorry,
to have a certain eye level to get into those raids, which you can reach by buying gear.
That's true. But
so I feel like
the skill.
I feel like the problem with an MMO versus other games is there is no endpoint.
Right.
Jordan would always ask me after I play a game, "Did you win?" It's like, well, what do you mean? I'm there's no. So I guess for me, the word win is entirely defined by what is your goal, because each person within an MMO will have a different goal. So the Raiders' win might be they took down that final boss today. The non-rating guild might be something entirely different. They reached a new crafting tier, or they've done something.
Right.
And I think that is important, because there is no one definition of win. So then that starts to beg the question, what does pay to win mean?
Right. And, it's what you've kind of touched on is the idea that, no, you don't win the game. You just win the day. Like this day you have won.
And that's why
that's it. Days are fleeting.
And that's why I was sort of kind of mini taking an issue when Diggs, you said, Ashes is not pay to win. It's just pay. Well, it kind of depends. What are you defining win? So if I'm with a group, let's just say, the mechanic they've sort of floated out there, and this is I think talked about in chat, is sort of if they're going to introduce, okay, you're in a group and you have to bid on an item if someone wants to roll with you. Okay, well let's frame it there. If I have more money for some reason because of some external system, a cash shop or something, well, all of a sudden I have an advantage over you. Of course, I guess Sog's argument was what? Well, it's all obtainable in game anyway. So, for him, it was sort of, if it's unattainable, if you can only buy this and it gives you an extra power, that's you winning.
Right. Well,
but I don't think it's that easy, because I think the win is defined by what are your goals, and in that setting, if I'm just a group player, well, I can get everything I want because I have more money than you. To me, that's sort of a problem. Maybe not to other people, but
so the way people typically talk about pay to win when I encounter it in the forums is you have bypassed the normal in-game path to boost your XP, to get a more powerful pet, or a faster mount, or weapons, whatever. You have bypassed the normal in-game grind to get high-quality items that is going to help you in combat. It's going to help you compete in combat of some form with real money rather than with in-game money, or you spent real money to buy a bunch of in-game money. And so pay to win, the way I normally hear it, is a player has used real game cash to gain an advantage that they wouldn't normally have if they hadn't paid that. So the interesting thing, which you touched on, Phantom, is that I find it fascinating that based on what we heard 2 weeks ago, it seems to be fine to be pay to win and use the, it's not barter, what is it? The system that they're using for the gambling system that they're going to be using, the bidding system.
Bidding.
You can bid. So if you have a lot of money in game, you can be pay to win in game with in game cash. You just don't want to be pay to win with real life cash, which I don't understand why it's okay to be pay to win in game but not out of game.
it comes down to what's obtainable. So I sort of hear two different things. Well, maybe it sounds like what you're saying from the forums, it's bypassing. So it doesn't matter that it's obtainable, it's the bypassing.
Yeah,
so it's sort of different than what, Sog's position was that, well, who cares if it's bypassing? If it's obtainable, then it's not pay to win.
Yeah, so a lot of people really complain about the repercussions of being able to gain XP and instantly be boosted to level 60 without ever learning your class. You start to group with people and then you don't know how to play your character. Same with gear and all this stuff. You just buy all this stuff and then all of a sudden you're playing at 60 or 70 or level 80. But you haven't learned how to play starting at a lower level. and that becomes a problem in group combat because you aren't able to help. That's one of the big things that people complain about.
Well, let's be honest. A lot of people don't know how to play the character, even if they're at max level. But
yeah, I think about though the other side of things. If you have bought an item and you're trading it for something in game, that means somebody who's playing the game is able to access the cash shop items without having to spend money on it. On top of that,
and you see that as a problem?
well, it's a thing, but the other aspect. So they've traded this thing they spent real money on for in-game cash, in order to get whatever the highest value in gold is with it, that they intend to use in a dungeon to do bidding. So they go in the dungeon, they bid on stuff, they bid the whole place out, they take every single item that isn't class specific, and they come out a little shinier than the rest of the folks. Well, that's fine, because the bidding money that they put in, it doesn't turn into a cake afterward. It gets distributed to the other people. So if you've bid on every item, you've just drained the coffers and made everyone else a little bit richer. So the next time they play, they'll have more bidding power against you or against whomever else. I don't, to that extent, I don't think it's necessarily the biggest problem. I'm still personally not a fan. If I was running a subscription-based MMO, I definitely would not be doing a cash shop for, aesthetics or that sort of stuff. If I was, it would be things that would stay on your character and that you're not trading them to people. And just very simple things like dyes that have the luminance channel turned up to like 10 or something, so they all have like a slight natural glow to them. Something like that. It doesn't add anything to the game. It just shows that, I like the game enough that I want to make myself pretty.
Well, that's part of it, too. We don't really know yet, right? I don't think they've commented on whether what we buy in the cash shop will be tradable in-game. They've not mentioned that, right? That's sort of an assumption.
Thought they said it was. Maybe it isn't.
Huh.
I don't think I've ever read that. I mean, I would assume that some parts of it would be tradable. I mean, in most cash shops, something's tradable. Not all, but
yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't be able to trade. Weren't we able to do that with the stuff we got for Landmark, or was that buying?
Not all
as
of
a
it.
different company, but yeah, if you bought materials, you could trade them.
Yeah, but some of it.
No, not materials. I mean, stuff like we traded
slot expansions.
Yeah.
They weren't.
Yeah.
I mean, so there were things that were not tradable. There were things that were tradable.
I'm thinking about our costumes and stuff like that. We could trade those.
Good.
Right? We traded our Christmas sweaters and all that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, everything is supposed to be cosmetic. So if you want it, trade it or give it away. I think there's some stuff that wouldn't be, some of the higher tier stuff might not be. But
this, it's where I think we have to also define that Ashes is going to just be different from everything. But kind of using World of Warcraft as an example, I when I really played, I sort of found this little business of trading the mounts that came from the trading card game when that first sort of hit the market. At the time, I don't know if it's still this way or not. At the time, they were tradable, or if you found someone you trusted, you could get the card, get the code, and then in game, someone gives you money, you give them the code, they go get the mount. And through that, I probably made near $1 million gold. And while did that let me beat the in-raid bosses? No, but it did allow me to basically buy anything I wanted for all of my characters, which does put me a step ahead. Because again, for that game, eye level based. Well, if I can just buy stuff off the auction house, boom, I'm right into being able to do the next step.
Mm-hmm.
So I personally do see that as sort of an advantage based off of someone, an outside income. And the question is just, is that fair? But Ashes is different, right? Two, we have to keep in mind that in a couple of ways. One, the world changes, so it is going to. So part of the difference in World of Warcraft, regardless of when you get there, the content will be there.
Yeah.
Right. So the next expansion, it might take me 6 months to get to the first raid versus someone else who got there within a few weeks. But at the end of it all, we all experience the same content, or we can. Versus Ashes, everything is sort of supposed to change over time. So it is going to kind of matter who gets where first. So if I'm able to come in, and because I have a higher paying job than this other person, I can get all of this money, funnel in dollars and make in-game currency out of it by trading whatever I buy through the cash shop. That does put me at an advantage of establishing early.
In what way? Give me an example.
If I'm able to accumulate things that make me more powerful just because I have more money than you, because I'm able to do this.
I don't know that
trade.
Powerful makes a difference. So I'm trying to figure out the scenario in which the power.
Well, there's one very clear to me example is one of, what is, we talk about what is winning. Well, I guess one measure of winning would be ruling a metropolis, right? Or being part of a group that rules a metropolis. And what is one of those metropolis? It's based off economy, right? And sort of what they've hinted is whoever has the most money gets to pick what they do within that metropolis. That's sort of what they've hinted at with that specific one.
I don't know that it's necessarily money. I need to look at that quote. Because it might have to do with your trading capability, and that's not necessarily just money based. But I need to see.
But even then, if I'm able to double, triple, quadruple you in money in game just because I'm able to purchase things in the cash shop and you're not, I see that as an exploitable imbalance.
Depending on where you are.
I guess exploitable is not a good word. It's intended. So it's not exploitable, but.
Well, I don't think that they're intending that, and I don't think that they're intending that people are going to be able to do anything with real world money to give them an advantage in game. They're anti that. So, but
that's what they say.
That's all we can say is what they say. We can't talk about.
And with Neuro's sort of counter argument that you're bidding and then all that money goes to other people. Well, it goes to 7 other people, so it's not like they're going to get a ton of money out of it. And then I can just still reload through the cash shop. So it's just interesting to me how that
is that the way the bidding works. I don't get the item, but I get some kind of cash kickback.
The way they've talked about it, because remember, this is where I was worried. Where I said I just would exploit this is if you want to bid on something and someone else does, then it becomes, or you want an item and someone else does that drops, it sort of becomes a bidding system, and then the money that is ultimately bid gets spread out amongst everyone. So that's where I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to bid 1 gold for every single item so that the other person thinks they have to bid high, and then I just get gold out of it, and I never really cared to have the item anyways.
It might make you have to bid the minimum value or something. I don't know.
That's true.
Seems like they would have a mechanic that would work on that. I don't think you can bid what you don't have.
Well, I might have it, but if it's if it's 10 gold, if it's minimum 10 gold and I put it in, the other, obviously if you're in a bidding situation to begin with, I guess they've not explained that. The way it sounded like is if you and someone else want to roll, then it goes to bidding. So if you're bidding, then someone else wants it too. So you just bid the minimum, and then they probably will bid over that, and then you just get to split whatever gold's left. Maybe it doesn't work that way. Maybe it's you have to put in a minimum bid regardless and just not even know if someone else is going to roll on it or not, and then you just find out after the fact. That'd be one way to, I guess, counterbalance that. But
so let me ask this: if there's no boosters and there's no trading of aesthetic items whatsoever, not dyes, not patterns, not equipment, nothing, is there any element by which paying for aesthetics grants some way to win that other people wouldn't, other than, hey, look, I'm a demon. I'm running around with a demon because I spent $500 or however.
That's what it's supposed to be, right?
Okay,
that's what it's supposed to be. Just
okay.
I look like a demon.
All right.
And if that's all it is, I think that's fine. I don't care about that, because that doesn't have any potential to affect the game.
Right.
The question,
that's the plan.
I mean, the question for me just becomes whether or not those items you buy in the cash shop become tradable for coin in game. That's where I think a problem could come.
Now, okay, this is getting into some funny territory. This next question: what about the ability to quote win on an RP server?
There are no RP servers.
Well, then in the context of RP, like the idea that somebody who was playing RP and is doing this whole act or whatever, they got this whole thing going, and they're using like one of the exclusive skins to leverage it. Do you think that would give them the opportunity to do things that other people wouldn't, or is it the sort of thing where it just wouldn't matter and they'll just have to pretend harder if they're not going to actually have the actual like angel or demon skin or whatever?
I feel like I'm going to know Dig's response.
The way I hear people talk about it, the way people RP on an RP server, you just make shit up anyway. So you just completely ignore whatever the game is throwing at you and say you're doing whatever, whether that prop exists or doesn't exist. It's whatever the players decide is reality, not what you actually see in the game. So, no, I think they would just ignore whatever skins you have or whatever. That's not the way I RP, but apparently that's what happens on RP servers.
How would you do it? I feel like that would have been sort of if I'm a king in rags, I'm still the king. Like if I say I'm holding a cup of ale and it's a banana, it's still a cup of ale because it's the imagination within role playing. But
no, when I role play, I'm in character in the game, and I react to stuff like it's in the game. So just like if you came up to me on the street in rags and told me you're a king, I would say you're crazy. You're schizophrenic. I don't know what you're talking about.
Because this is what we talked about, like theater RP, right? Remind me, is that
theater RP to me, theater RP is when you just ignore what the game gives you and you make up your own shit.
Yeah. I was going to say the pretend this banana is a class of ale or whatever. It's like, yeah, no, that sounds like a college improv group right there.
Yeah. Which is fine for the people who like to do that. That's just not the way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, let's see. I had a couple other things to kind of talk about there.
So I do want to, because you gave this example, and this is something that I think is kind of fascinating about the summer campaign that they did, in that I think some people were able to get maybe royalty costumes a la carte without having paid for the entire package. And so where people might have been hoping and paying for their high-end package to say, hey, I'm royalty, that means I paid this amount. Now you can have people who paid a lesser amount, significantly lesser, be like, hey, I'm royalty too. And that might rub people the wrong way in a similar fashion with the pay-to-win people, where if you can trade those items, if I can give my royalty costume to any other player rather than them being account-bound, then I can see people being upset. You know, you're showing off that you have the $1,000, you have the skin from the $1,000 package, but you didn't really pay that.
Yeah.
That's not pay to win. That's just I like to bitch and complain.
It's not pay to win, but people like to bitch and complain about a lot of stuff.
That's
I don't know that I normally have a problem with the pay to win stuff anyway.
that's I don't know how to manage money, and I paid way too much money for a skin in a game.
Which happens. That's part of the problem with the pay to win kind of model, though, is some of them, people are complaining about that with Fortnite because there's a lot of RNG in the items that you get from what you paid for. They're saying, I paid $1,000 for all these loot llamas, and I didn't get any legendary, or I didn't get the legendary character that I wanted out of it, even though I paid $1,000. Well, maybe you shouldn't pay $1,000.
I hope they didn't pay $1,000. At the highest tier of backer pack, you just get like unique characters or whatever of all classes.
Yeah, but people are paying thousands of dollars to try to get the legendary that they wanted, and then complaining when they don't get it. I think the highest I've heard, somebody paid like $3,000 on loot llamas trying to get what they wanted.
Man, Fortnite be loving those whales. They don't even need to make another Unreal game.
And what some of the complaints I'm hearing about Fortnite with pay to win is that right now it feels gated. So once you move from the first area, Stonewood, into Plankerton, the second area, progression seems to slow down, and people feel like they need to pay for loot in order to make them more powerful or
I see.
bump their skills, and they're feeling pressured to pay for.
Well, that's a good business model.
Items. There you go. So the morality behind that is also kind of questionable, and how people feel like. I've played other games that cater to whales and been a free-to-play player and done just fine with them, and I'm pretty sure Fortnite's probably going to be more or less the same way. That being said, I might up my my founder pack to one of the higher ones a little bit later on if I'm into like the second or third difficulty while they're still going, and I feel like I'm getting my money's worth. Sure, I'll bump it up a little bit and get all that nice loot while it's still in the founder's super discount mode or whatever. Yep. But yeah, that's at the same time though, it's a group win sort of thing. It's not a PvP game. So, if you're paying to win, that means the people you're playing with are also winning, which is a win for them. So, the people who spend the money, the whales, they make the game easier and more doable for the rest of the folks, which again was my experience with other games. Like games where you'd have like most of your team, but then one team member is like a character that's provided by one of your buddies, and that character is just so ridiculously powerful you can get through content you wouldn't have otherwise been able to. Well, again, the whales are getting you through. And, I think about that, again, bringing it back to Ashes, the idea of that sort of thing. There is kind of that odd, like, beneficial aspect of, if somebody is totally just juiced and they've got, like, the best everything, and you do happen to play content with them, you're probably going to actually get through it. And for a game like Ashes, where you're not going to be saying the same content, like, the same way every time if you even see it twice, having a higher success rate kind of makes you feel like a badass, I bet. Probably, if you're a bard or something, it's like, oh, hell yeah, I'm writing a song about this. Whatever it is that you're trying to do, you're probably going to be able to do it if you've got people that are just, ridiculously powerful. But, of course, if the whole pay-to-win thing absolutely is being enforced and there's no trading and there's no ability to gain advantage through aesthetics, it's going to be your genuinely hardcore players that are going to be leading the charge in that way, and they're
hopefully not getting to be too much of dicks, but as we've seen with plenty of other games, it's the hardcore players. If you aren't up to a certain level of equipment, have certain skills, etc., they're just not going to let you in the group. So I hope they've got systems in place to counter that, so casual people will be able to group with top end people.
Or I'm hoping that casual people will be able to group with casual people, and that should be easy because you know where people are. It's not like you're spreading out from the city and can't find the people that you used to like to play with. Everybody's coming back home to the same spot, and you know where their house. Well, you know where their house is.
If they haven't moved.
They haven't moved, but you'll know that too. But you'll be in a city where you know where people's houses are, and you can pretty much find them because they're on. You're going to know who's on at the same time you are and where they live. So I think it's going to be, and what they do and what they like to do and what they don't like to do and whether you like to group with them or not. So I think it's going to be easier to find groups. I think it's harder when people are spread all over the world because, that's where the higher zones are.
I mean, I still feel like with Ashes, because so much of it is centered on player interaction. I mean, that's what makes the world go round. It's going to come. A lot of it will come down to who has the most gold. I mean, if I'm a trader, even. I mean, if I'm a fighter, if I can buy the best stuff, and it sort of lowers your risk in the whole game. That's why I just feel like if there's a way, if they're going to somehow inadvertently create a system where external money becomes internal gold. I feel like it is going to set up for imbalances that to me will be unfair.
How would external money turn into in-game gold?
Well, if I can go spend $500 on cosmetics, turn around, not use them, and trade them in a marketplace for whatever that I can get for them, that becomes gold for me. I have no intention. The items don't even matter. Like it's because this was part of the argument too. I don't even care if the items are obtainable in game or not. That's not the point here. The point is just that trading of external money for internal game currency, because that's what that becomes. That's what I did in World of Warcraft. I mean, that's just what that becomes. I
don't trade with players. I mean, I don't do business with players. I mean, I give stuff for free to people I like, but I don't do player economy because players are greedy. I do
even NPCs,
NPC economy.
Assuming it's some sort of system
ignore all that.
Where I can, I get so many chunks of ore, I sell it to an NPC, and then that NPC in turn sells it to other players. Even there, if I have more money, then I can just come buy it all up, putting you at a disadvantage. I've
never encountered that in EQ or WoW.
Well, EQ vendors sold.
WO.
Well, they resold what you sell them, right? That's the way the vendors.
I never have a problem with NPCs.
Well, but I mean, it's just also a different game. I mean, at the time, EverQuest didn't have a way of introducing external money into the game. Neither did World of Warcraft. And now you can buy subscriptions, or what are they in, Chronos or the tokens, and just turn around and then sell them for gold. They've sort of hit the point where it doesn't really matter much anymore. But
yeah, I'm saying I'm kind of taking your word for it because I ignore all that.
Yeah, no, I mean, and the reason I say it's important, obviously World of Warcraft is still functioning just fine with people. There's people that buy and trade tokens now just to play the market on tokens. It's not even the auction house market anymore. It's just where's the token. What was it when? I think when it was announced that you could buy, was it Destiny 2 with the Blizzard currency, like the token values went way up, so like you could play this game with, because at some point they went up enough you could get like a 20% discount if you had bought the token versus when Destiny 2 came out, just playing that market. in a game that's really static, in a game again where, like EverQuest, like World of Warcraft, where we all will ultimately experience the same content no matter when we get there, I don't think that really matters. And I think that's why Blizzard has really eased up on that. That they've come to realize, well, yeah, most of the in-game stuff, you're going to do your world quests and get epics here and epics there, and ultimately people will all kind of reach the same place. But in a game like Ashes, where it's all about a dynamic, changing world where 6 months from now, that endpoint might not be the same as it was. Well, now all of a sudden, that sort of economy dynamics is a little bit different. Because let's say, again, I've pumped in $1,000 of my own money that someone else doesn't have. Let's say there's someone who, through skill, became leader of a military metropolis. They don't really have a lot of money, that whatever day job they have. Here I am wanting to take that over, and I don't have that skill, but hey, I got $1,000 that I can convert into gold that then somehow allows me to get more materials, more guards, more people, all because I just have a better day job. To me, that's unfair, and I don't know that that's the way the system will be. I mean, like I said, I don't even know if we really know for sure items will be tradable yet. I've looked. I don't think they've commented on that. But that to me is where, in a system that they are proposing, it does become potentially whoever can spend the most money gets the most out of the game, because it's just not the same endpoint. It will change over time. I can go buy, I can every day buy and sell a token on World of Warcraft, and I can amass 1 million gold, in several weeks, but that isn't going to change whether I can go to the new raid or not, or whether I'm successful there or not. It'll be there regardless of how much gold I have. In Ashes, if I spend several weeks doing that with money and I can amass a ton of money, well, that I have the potential to change that content.
So I guess the example that I would give is that's similar to what you already gave is for caravan runs, you would be able to hire NPC guards.
Sure. That's one way.
Get because you kind of craft each caravan, so you decide what kind of wheels they have and the quality of the materials that build the actual wagon or whatever. So you get the highest quality materials for that, get the highest number of guards, and
go a step beyond that.
Potentially players as well.
Go a step beyond that. I don't even need to care about caravans. I'm sitting in a big-ass downtown high-rise in Metropolis that you can't afford, and I'm just buying whatever you decide to try to send to the city. I don't even have to worry about caravans. Well, it has to get there. I don't care. I'm going to buy whoever gets here first. I got the money. I'll buy it.
No, the caravan has to actually survive the trip.
Well, I know, but as someone with a lot of gold, I don't care if your caravan does or the next caravan does, because ultimately, as long as the prices are somewhat similar, I have the gold, so I don't really care if I'm paying a little bit more or not, because I can go reload with some couple of dollars.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm not oh, go ahead.
Stoneglade said in chat it's the same as a large guild that can own Metropolis. And, to some extent, yes, the overall level of influence of somebody who is buying their way to having those masses of people versus an organized group coming into it, it's still the same number of people and the same amount of influence. The difference is, I guess, what it's organized around is, Mr. Scrooge McWhale Moneybags and his infinite resources versus a guild I would imagine is going to have a little bit more like a political structure and distribution of leadership roles to people based on merit and ability, instead of just like, oh, I'm just going to give you money, you seem to know what you're doing, or whatever it may be.
Yeah, with regard to guilds owning Metropolis, I'm interested to see how well large guilds are going to be able to, like mega guilds are going to be able to maintain their cohesion, because there's a relatively low cap for membership that people are complaining about, 250 to 300. And so the mega guilds are going to have to to really own a metropolis of just 10,000, well, I don't know, 1,000 people, more than 1,000, they're going to have to split their guild into sub-guilds, and we'll have to see if each of those guilds won't have their own objectives. I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult for mega guilds to maintain their cohesion.
Like, let's run a scenario, and how would you feel about it? So let's say you own a metropolis, and somebody that's worked for months to come do a siege is there. They spend all this all this time and effort into sieging you, and you're probably going to lose, and that person's thinking, oh, hell yeah, we're going to take this over. But then, I really don't want to lose this, so I'm going to go put $1,000 into this game, get all this actual gold, and then refortify everything. I don't know that this is how the system will work, but there's the potential from what we know so far. I mean, wouldn't you, as the player, that would seem so unfair that you're on the brink of doing this, months of hard work, and this person just has a really good job, and they were able to save they put a bunch of money into the game, and then you lose.
Be just buying more patrols and defenses at the
and again, we don't really
can get to it.
Yeah, and we don't really know how that'll work. So I this sort of, until we know, it's speculative. But that's sort of the imbalance that I worry about when you introduce some sort of pipeline where you can take real world money and turn it into game money. Because
I don't see that that's happening with Ashes. How would that be happening? I think that's what they want to avoid.
It is all going to hinge on whether what you can buy in the cash shop is tradable in game. Because I'm not going to lie, if I need to, if I need some gold, that's a legal way for me to do it. I did it with mounts in World of Warcraft. I'm probably going to do it in Ashes.
Okay. Because so right, we could do that probably with mounts again, right? We got animal husbandry. We're going to be able to have mounts that are better than others.
I mean, anything that takes money to increase power or whatever, anything that actually takes gold rather than time, that becomes an issue.
So
that would become a huge issue.
You won't be able to buy mounts. The mounts are only cosmetic, but some people might. Yeah,
you buy the skin. You get the mount and then apply the skin to it.
I guarantee you, if there is a way for someone to use in-game gold to purchase something in a cash shop, they will do that. Because there's just a great divide, and people just don't have $20, $40 to go spend every week on what they want in the cash shop. Maybe they have the time.
Even though they've got $15 a month to.
That's another topic, but that's where this slope is, and that's where they've not commented on that. Maybe
no, they haven't commented on a lot of stuff.
No, but maybe I guess one way to combat that is you can trade it in game, but you can't sell it in game. I guess that would be one way. So sort of it's no value. I think that's what EverQuest 2, right? They have no value items. But if you just are able to funnel that pipeline, because pre trading card game in World of Warcraft, I had no way to do that. As soon as I learned that I could do that, and this was probably around the time that my first kid was born, so I didn't have a lot of time to play anymore. So as soon as I realized, hey, there's a legal way, I can get an amount outside of the game, sell it inside of the game for 200 gold a pop, or 200,000 gold a pop. All right. And and even in that setting, it's different, but because again, everyone gets to experience the same thing. But even in that setting, I feel like there's still an advantage because I can go buy things over everyone else without a care in the world. But Ashes is, I think it's even more important because it's not everyone a year from now will experience the same thing as the first day. It is meant to change, and that change is enforced by players. And player power, yes, it will come down to how well can you play your character, but a lot of that's going to hinge on how much money do you have. Is it fair to be like in a big guild and you are with this leader the whole way, and you're the second in command, and but then someone else comes in and says, "Hey, I'll funnel you all this gold every month. I have no problem doing that, but I want you to kick everyone else out." I mean, is that fair to have a system in place where someone has so much control on the game and the game how it's played just because they are able to put money in that other people can't outside of the game? The vibe I get is I don't even know if they care. I mean, they're already putting a cash shop in with the sub game. I mean, that is unusual. It seems to be all about money, but
it's just once again goes back to the definition of winning. If being able to ruin other people's good time by being able to buy your way to win against them in a situation where they probably otherwise should be able to win. Yeah, that should probably be avoided for Ashes of Creation. I really can't think of a game where something like that would actually be a good thing, to be honest.
Because it sets up. I mean, it sets up a system where I have no risk, but I can get all of the reward. I don't have to worry about setting something up, mining over here, and it being stolen or attacked. I can just sit in the city and buy whatever I want. Now, is that a fun way to play? Well, probably not. I mean, why are you playing the game?
It can create
people
an
play
interesting,
for all kinds of reasons. Yeah,
it can create an interesting dynamic of everybody trying to be the Robin Hood to your mafioso gangster, rule over the land. That everybody's just going to be trying to pick at your gains everywhere they can. And sure, you'll have your guard and everybody that you've paid off, and some of them will be taking a paycheck and then walking off with your stuff anyway. And some of them will be looking the other way while their buddies come in and take stuff. And I think that's the other thing about trying to buy your way to victory in a game like this, where not only is everything dynamic, things aren't static, but there's really no way to actually enforce loyalty. So I just have to imagine you're not going to be able to have nearly as much power and leadership or whatever trying to buy your way to influence and control than people that got there organically and trust each other.
I think human nature is more likely to let someone give them money to work with them than to fight them for that money and potentially lose everything. We are much more risk averse than we are anything else.
Maybe us as people, but us as characters in the game might be more like, what, screw this guy. I'm going to just fight to my last, and then I'll respawn and do it again.
And for some people, that will be. For others that has spent a lot of time or a bit of money, they're not going to want to lose what they have.
Yeah, I mean, I like to give stuff away for free, so that's the other way is to undercut stuff.
We all know that you
see how many people.
We all know that you are very unique, and that's why we like you.
But the thing with Ashes for me is that Steven has millions of dollars for a reason, and I think there's. It might not be totally shady how he got the money, but it was probably kind of sketchy because he worked things to be for his advantage monetarily, and he's good at that. And so when he says, my game is not pay to win, people hear that as a good thing, but I think he's playing so that he can win monetarily. He's building a game that's going to let him win monetarily. So we're going to be paying. It might not be paying to win, but we're going to be paying. And I have a feeling once the game actually comes out, people are going to be complaining, much like with Fortnite, except it's going to be more purposeful in the mind of Steven, that he's going to set up things so that we're paying. And it won't be pay to win, but we're going to be paying. And I have a feeling people are going to realize they aren't going to like what pay to win, or no pay to win means
I mean,
to Steven versus what it means to the rest of us.
And based off that, they might not make any of this tradable. I mean, one way for them to get more money is to make it so that you absolutely have to buy it in the cash shop, right? So, I mean, that's very real possibility.
Well, I don't know if that's going to make more money, because then the people that are going to buy this stuff will only ever buy it once, versus if they can trade it, they might buy it multiple times.
That's true.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'd be interested in hearing how EverQuest has done. Obviously, they've done okay. They haven't shut the game down.
Right, because it seems like our Kickstarter items should be bind to account, right? I think we'll be able to trade them to other characters on our account, but I would imagine or hope that they're bind to account, so we wouldn't be able to trade or sell those to other players.
I mean, that's, and the first thing you mentioned, Neuro, about the idea of sort of a discount for being a subscription. Should a subscription-based game give you some sort of discount in the cash shop? I don't think they'll do that.
Oh, I wasn't saying discount. I was saying just a wallet allotment of cash you can spend every month.
Same thing. I mean, discount. It's free money, but I don't see them doing that, because they do want money. And isn't that always done typically in a game that's free to play or sub based? Has there actually prior to this been a game where you're sub based and you actually get some sort of cash to spend? I can't think of one.
I think when some of the SOE all access games were still subscription based, and you were getting the SC for the monthlies.
Okay, so it's like a discount on the sub, basically. I mean, that's
a little bit. It's a perk for paying. It's there's kind of two ways to see the actual value of virtual currency. One is that it's one for one the value of the money that you spent on it, plus or minus any inflation or changes or whatever, if they've had sales where you can get it at a lower rate. I guess not plus, it'd be minus. It's, the highest amount or somewhere below that is the relative cash value of it. Or then the other way to see it is it has no value because it and the account are all owned by the company, and you don't own any of it at the end of the day. So what you bought was a $10 cash card that's basically a piece of paper that says you get these free digital bucks for their digital content. So for them to issue more of it and give it to you for free is no skin off their back, because they're generating it. Now, if all of the items cost a certain value, a certain interval, and it's done in such a way that the amount that's given is you might be able to buy one thing, but then you'll be short for another couple months to get the next thing, or set up in such a way that you're going to be ending up with a 50 or 100 hanging over every time or whatever, and the only way to actually use it is to actually spend money out of pocket to make up the difference or whatever. There's sneaky things like that I've seen with the shops for sure. But that's putting things at $9.95 instead of $1,000. So every time you buy, you have an extra $5 in the wallet, and eventually it's I'm close enough. I'll just put in a few bucks and tip the rest of it over or whatever and get the extra. There's ways that can be tricky with that, but again, goes back to the idea, it's either the actual money you spent on it is what it's worth, or it's not worth anything, and they own everything, because that's really the reality of the property ownership of the situation, and so they can just give it to you if they want to.
Yeah, the way Wizard 101 worked is that you could buy a monthly subscription. You could do a 6-month or a year subscription, but you could also get cards from Target and 7-Eleven and Walmart. Each of them would have a different pet each month, and then you could redeem that card for either game time or however many 500 in-game coins or whatever it was. And then you use those coins in the cash shop. But that would be pay to win because you could get whatever gear you could afford to get with that cash.
But it wasn't a monthly subscription game, was it?
It could be a monthly subscription. So
It wasn't mandatory to play, though, was it?
I think if you did not pay, you would be locked to one region. And then if you wanted to move it past that region, you would have to pay a certain amount to move it to that
That's a
region.
little sneaky. Yeah, there was what was the game? It wasn't monthly, but there was a Neopets game where it's like you play the first zone and then to play the rest of them, you have to buy each one basically as DLCs. It's like, well, that was a fun one-level thing. Quit.
Well, and that was month to month. So in terms of free, so if you paid the month subscription or a year subscription, then you get to play all the areas for free.
And
but if you don't, then you're locked to that one region.
And I'm guessing there wasn't satisfying in-game content in the free region.
I mean, it's like locked by level, kind of, or something. So eventually you do everything and you're ready to move into a different region.
Gotcha.
Other places that you want to go.
Well then, yeah, no, that's kind of sleazy. I can see how that game probably made a lot of money, and I'm glad I never touched it.
It was fun to play. It was great community too.
We are at the end of our time. Not that I think anyone from Intrepid actually watches us, but if you do, again, I don't care about cash shops. It's just how does that influence in-game economy? Just if you watch this, just take a very close look at that, because I guarantee you, I will be one of the first people to go buy mount skins and sell them in-game. If it's entirely legal, I won't do it. I won't do anything that will risk getting banned. But if you introduce a system that allows me to do that, I will do that. So, anyways, anything from y'all? Any last words? Any thoughts?
No. Definitely looking forward to the next. Well, let's see. Next episode, I'm actually going to be in Seattle, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to make it.
Okay.
If I have good enough internet or something, then I'll give it a shot.
So, to be determined.
Yep.
Cool.
I feel like
we'll drag either Sag or Valix on.
There you go.
So I feel like we still need to talk about 8-man groups. We didn't really get that in last time, but
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
so. Anyways, all right. Well, everyone, thanks for joining, and let me make sure I get all this set up right. All right. All right.
Cool.
Have a good night.
All right.
See you later.
Bye.